Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson, and this is a show about THC, truth, hope, and change. And yeah, it's also about THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. On the show today, we're going to have an 8 out of 10 Glenn join us as always from canamatch.ca for the 420 session. We'll visit the Healing Wave CSP RV, and we're going to talk quite a bit about Cannabis Day today. Cannabis Day is not Canada Day. It happens to fall on the same day as what they call Canada Day, but it is not Canada Day. This is not a celebration of Canada. I really appreciate this land that we live on, and I really appreciate most of the people that occupy this land, but I do not appreciate the Canadian government at all. And Cannabis Day is a protest against this immoral, unethical, greedy, corporately fueled Canadian government that's been going on for a very long time. I was mistaken last week in last week's show because I said that Cannabis Day started in Saskatchewan. It actually started in Edmonton. I stand corrected. A fellow named Buck Buchan started it with the Canadian Association to Liberate Marijuana, or CALM for short, way back in 1977 as a way to protest the immoral and unethical and unjustified Canadian government policies with respect to cannabis. And they continue to this day. It was not Canada Day when Cannabis Day was started. It wasn't like we were jumping on the shoulders of the Canadian government's day to celebrate Canada. Cannabis Day was started on July 1st, which at the time was Dominion Day, a barely recognized holiday at all. It grew into something bigger. By the time Cannabis Day had hit Vancouver, and we were doing it here back in the late 90s, Dominion Day was a matter of some fireworks that happened, and that was about it. We grew Cannabis Day into being quite the event, and Canada followed suit by deciding to call it Canada Day. I am ashamed of our government in Canada here. It is disgusting. They know better. They've known better for a long time, and it doesn't matter to them because that's not what they care about. The Canadian government for a long time has been nothing but servants to the corporate and rich people who want to have their way with us. Cannabis should never have been made illegal in the first place. In Canada, 100 years ago, in 1923, they made cannabis illegal in Canada with no debate. There was already newspaper headlines coming up from the States about marijuana, this crazy drug making people violent and insane, according to William Randolph Hearst in his newspaper publications. Here in Canada, the suffragette judge Emily Murphy, wrote a book about the illegal drug trade, and in there she vilified cannabis. Said it was the new menace in her chapter on cannabis, filled with nothing but lies about it making people violent, insane, super strong, having no conscience, dying horrible deaths. They should be ashamed of themselves. That should have been corrected really quickly. Instead, they've used it for many, many years as the foundation for their prohibition. A prohibition that has seen literally millions of Canadians saddled with criminal records for simply having possession of, growing, or providing for somebody else God's greatest gift to human beings. Human beings that should have the right to access nature if they so choose. It is highly immoral and unethical for any government, be they dictators, tyrants, pharaohs, kings, or public servants, to dictate to free citizens what they can and cannot use for themselves. In the case of cannabis, it's been going on for 100 years. And despite you might think that we have legalization, and why am I so upset? The legalization that we have is nothing short of a serious slap in the face to free Canadians and all of those who've been involved in the cannabis legalization movement. It is abhorrent. It is abhorrent because they're trying to maintain the same price structure that Prohibition had in place for 100 years. They're trying to capitalize on people's desire to have it and willingness to spend $4,480 a gram, or pardon me, a pound at $10 a gram. Disgusting. Disgusting not just because they're restricting access to people who would otherwise use it to feel better. Disgusting it because it's actually providing a death sentence for the people that can't get off of the opioids. You might see that my face looks a little bit drawn today. I got pretty emotional today. I'm still pretty emotional about it. Hard to say why. You would think that I'd be immune to all this after all the time I've been down here trying to solve this public health emergency. All the deaths that have occurred around me. People that I knew even. But it hit me hard today. I was in the bank. The fella next to me was trying to explain to the teller there about why he was there. He was trying to look after his son's estate. His son had passed away. No father should ever have to bury his son. I can't imagine. What I can imagine about it makes me very emotional. Having my own son. My own son has his own shortcomings, and sometimes that bothers me, you know. But my son is thankfully not addicted to drugs and not addicted to fentanyl or heroin. And for that I breathe a sigh of relief and extend to him the biggest of hugs. I asked this gentleman, I told him I was so sorry to hear of his loss, and I said, I'm sorry to ask you, but was it a drug overdose? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. His son had had to have shoulder surgery a little over a year ago. The doctors put him on opioids. Then took him off abruptly because of the climate these days about doctors prescribing and over-prescribing opioids, which they're more than justified in doing. And it's a story we hear repeated over and over and over again here. Ordinary people from all walks of life suffer some sort of tragedy or trauma, end up on opioids, usually at the hand of a doctor, but not always, but usually. And now many of them are ending up dead. It's no small deal. Death is huge. We're becoming numb to it because there's so much of it. COVID, every day we had the announcements of how many more people were dead. They've never done that for the overdose crisis, but they could. They'd be listing off a half a dozen names every day here in British Columbia. It's easy to get numb to that. It's not so easy to get numb to it when it's right in your own home, your own family, a loved one. It hits pretty hard. I could tell in this man's, well, I don't know what that's all about, but once it stops ringing, I'll turn my volume down. Oh, there we go. Let me look after that. Maybe a little bit of a good break. I don't really want to be emotional on the show here. Not this emotional, anyway. I don't know that it helps to break down like that. But maybe that's what I should do more often. Maybe I should express the feelings that drive me to do what we're doing here. I'm really here without much personal experience to do with the fentanyl overdose, other than my attempt to try to address it. But I don't do what I do because I lost a loved one. I do what I do because other people have lost their loved ones. I do what I do because I'm an empath, and I feel much of what other people feel. And I was feeling the anguish and the desperation and the fear of what was happening around this, now in its 8th year, public health emergency, a pandemic of overdose deaths. I had to do something. I had an answer that didn't seem to be part of the solutions that were being offered up. I could not sit idly by, feeling the feelings of those so closely affected by this pandemic, having a solution and not say anything. I couldn't do that. I'm not built that way. I wasn't raised that way. I would have been more miserable if I knew what I know and I did nothing. So I've been trying to do something. It was a no-brainer. I had learned it years before, in the previous pandemic of overdose deaths back in the late 90s. By the time we opened the Herb School in 2004, it was raging on. And people would come and sit across the desk from me and choose what cannabis they wanted and tell me how thankful they were that we were standing up against bad laws and making sure that there was at least some option on the downtown east side for people other than all the drugs that were available to them on the sidewalks everywhere you walk. For 3.5 years we ran the Herb School. We had dozens and dozens of people by that time telling us that we had helped get them off those hard drugs with Lady Marijuana's brownies and cakes. Not so much the smoked cannabis. Smoked cannabis is fine, it helps. Does a little bit. But it's not powerful enough to get people through withdrawal for most part, not most people. But those cookies and cakes and brownies, they can do it. And they have done it. By the time the Vancouver Police, on behalf of the Canadian federal government, raided and arrested David and 5 of the other partners that we had at the Herb School, we knew that what we were doing was saving lives. But still they raided us, and still they charged all 6 of them. In the end, they made a deal with David that if he would plead guilty, they would drop the charges on the other ones. They made the same deal with me here when they raided and arrested myself and 2 of my co-workers. David took the deal. It wasn't what we planned. His whole idea was to get raided and arrested and then not plead guilty and make the courts make the government try to justify in court their prohibition against cannabis. But because he cared about the other 5, one young amongst them that didn't have a criminal record and his whole life ahead of him, and David left it up to them. They decided as a group they didn't want to have a criminal record. So David went along with it, even though that was never his plan. He ended up getting 6 months prison for helping save people's lives, defy the government's policies, and allow cannabis to be accessed by the people in the neighborhood here that were suffering and at risk of death. For that, he got 6 months in jail. Even though in a 3-day sentencing hearing, including Dr. Lester Grinspoon's half-day testimony, it was really, really clear that the government was wrong to prohibit cannabis. Cannabis should be something that people should be able to access. And reasonable access is what we've been fighting for ever since. Oh, we're not close, are we?
No.
Cannabis Day is not a celebration of our Canadian government. It is a protest against our Canadian government. that is allowing people to die like this gentleman's son, and the tens of thousands of other people that have died in the last 7+ years since this began. For over 6.5 of those years, we have been demonstrating the solution. We've been presenting it to government in every which way we could. There's been media articles written about the value of what we're doing here. There's hundreds of people that we've rescued from addiction. Our application to Health Canada, September 16th, almost coming up to 3 years ago, was full of testimonials from people who had been helped because of having access to cannabis. Letters from Dr. M.J. Malloy and Professor Zachary Walsh. 4:19. I only got one more minute. And here we still wait. I just got an email in the last little bit from a senior level of the provincial government in British Columbia that I had sent a copy of our submission to Health Canada to, informing me that it's not in their purview. They're not able to provide any sort of a license for us to do what we're doing. We just have to keep dealing with a corrupt federal government. Disgusting. Because we're getting nowhere with them. In any case, thank God for cannabis. Thank God for 420. It allows me to get some break in the misery that I experienced by having to deal with a corrupt government in our attempt here to save people's lives. Thank God for cannabis. Thank God for 420. So on that note, it is 420. Glenn's here, of course.
Hey.
Well, Mr. Wells.
Hey, look, I found the bag. Hey,
There it is.
Want to roll a little bit? There we go. Yes.
Want to give away all of our secrets? What are you smoking today?
Something the same as you. I brought you some Granddaddy Purple. Since you've got the gray hair and stuff, you got more gray hair than me. I figured
I'm the Granddaddy.
The Granddaddy would be appropriate.
Is purple the next stage, or is white, or am I already at white?
I don't know.
Did I pass?
You go blue.
Well, that's what I mean. Blue, purplish hair. That's a thing with old people.
Yeah.
And now it's a thing with young people because I guess they like to have blue, purplish hair.
I guess, eh?
I can't understand that. I'm too old.
Yeah, even fentanyl has touched my family. My kid's half-sister died in her kitchen. And, yeah.
It is so sad.
Yeah, rest in peace, Leanne. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Glenn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to all the people out there that have had to endure this and continue to. Hey, Mr. Cato.
Oh, he's looking Miss 80, eh?
He's a good guy.
Gauser says in New Zealand, the rich get charges dropped and not so rich go to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, same thing here.
Yeah.
We've got the Aboriginal community here, the poor, downtrodden Aboriginal group that occupies the downtown east side, that are way, way above everybody else in how many of their people are dying because of this.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people dying. It's sad. It's sad.
They just released the numbers last week. We talked about it a little bit on the show last week. 84% of the people dying of fentanyl overdose or drug overdoses in British Columbia are not here on the downtown east side.
Yeah, they're all in the rural areas and stuff like that, right?
You would think that the numbers would be reversed, that the vast majority would be here, where the supply is poisoned and it's coming from.
Yeah.
But it's not. We have people from all walks of life ending up addicted to opioids, ending up trying to get off of them and can't, ending up having to borrow it from friends or steal it from medicine cabinets or come to the downtown east side.
Yeah, I was about to say that. A lot of them will come down here, pick it up down here and take it home.
And take it home.
That's where they die, right? So.
And that's where they die.
Yeah.
Down here on the downtown east side, at least there's an option for the people that know about it here.
Everybody.
We have the CSP RV.
Yeah.
We have the Healing Wave, where people can come, and if they don't even have any money, they still get a high-dose edible or a joint.
Mm-hmm.
If they have money, they can access it easily and cheaply, without barriers. And that's why there's only a 14% number here, or 16%.
Is it 16%?
84% in the rest of the province.
Wow.
For 6.5 years, the CSP has been providing high-dose edibles, or reasonable dose edibles, high compared to the government's regulations, that's for sure, And we put into this neighborhood somewhere between 10 and 15,000 milligrams every single day for the last 3 years, and twice a week for 2.5 years before that,
Yeah.
and once a week for a year before that. And it's obviously making a difference.
Oh, I've seen the difference.
We've seen it in the reports. We've seen the officials talking about the numbers and being somewhat shocked about why there isn't more here on the downtown east side. Well, I can tell them why. If they would open their eyes and pay attention, hundreds of the people in this neighborhood come to the RV, came to the store, came to Vandu.
Yeah.
We would have 250 to 300 people lined up in front of Vandu twice a week for the last couple of years that we were there.
It was crazy.
Obviously, we were putting
All
it in.
around the block. I
All
remember,
around the
I
block.
used to, when I was handing out apples or oranges, I'd have to go all the way around the block, right? It was, yeah, a lot of people.
So Cannabis Day is not a celebration of Canadian government policies. It is a protest against those policies.
Exactly, yeah.
And man, does it never need to be protested. This legalization is absolutely immoral in how it leaves out the most important people of all. The people that our movement worked to protect first and foremost were those people that needed it for medical purposes on a daily basis and couldn't access it, couldn't afford it. Government legalization is the opposite. The rich can afford to get cannabis. The poor people can't.
No.
The opposite of what the legalization movement was all about and is still all about. We have not won. We're not celebrating. We are continuing to protest, and we're going to protest even louder than we ever have, because people are continuing to die and government policy continues to be Prohibition 2.0. Major enforcement against anybody growing outside of the cartel on our dime. Taxpayer paying for a protection racket for government monopoly. How wrong is that?
Ooh, that's wrong. And we were reading this thing about the monopolies and stuff. There an article there. Yeah.
Well, there's been a court case.
Yeah.
There's been a court case where the government was trying to justify their need for a monopoly for security reasons. Thankfully, the judge didn't buy
It
it.
was a judge's panel. There was 3 of them.
3 judges.
3 of them.
They didn't buy it.
They didn't buy it. Nope. Nope.
The government says, yeah, we can only have like one person growing for a sick person because of security reasons.
Yeah.
They extended that now, I think, to 3 people. One person can grow for 3.
Yeah.
But they have nothing, no studies, no statistics, no anything to show that that is, for some reason, a better security method, having hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands
There would be thousands
of growers growing for just 1 or 2 or 3 people,
Yeah, I think the number.
instead of having less than that growing for more people.
Yeah.
You would think that'd be easier to
They gave
control.
a number of 30,000 people compared to 1,600 people that could be growing for those 30,000 people. So the judge said that doesn't make sense.
No.
Because how you can control 1,600 but not 30,000, right?
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
None of this makes any sense.
No, I'm glad the judge.
It just makes big time money.
Yeah.
That's why it's so wrong. When a government is involved in that level of corruption, something needs to be done about this. We should not be just standing idly by and thinking, oh, well, look at that, a cannabis store. You can walk right in there and buy cannabis, and then you can have cannabis, and you can smoke cannabis, and nobody's going to arrest you. Sure. But the price of cannabis is higher than it was, or at least as high as it was during Prohibition.
That's higher.
Well, we learned at Weeds that
Yeah, there are some lower ones. Yeah.
there is some
But when
cheaper
you're paying
alternatives.
$40 for an eighth, that's higher because an eighth was only $25.
Right, and they've got ounces for $280, which is $10 a gram.
Yeah.
You know, you
There's
can do a lot better than that.
There's pounds
in the
out there for
underground.
$1,400, right? That's almost $100 an ounce. So
Yeah.
So
And there's cheaper pounds than that out there, and there,
Oh, yes.
and there is lots.
yeah,
and,
yeah. But
know.
if you want connoisseur, you're paying that $1,400 price.
That's right. If you,
Yes.
if you want the client for the rich people,
Yeah.
for the rich people, it's always been expensive. It's still expensive, and they don't care.
No.
They don't care.
They don't. No, they don't.
Well, they should care about their brothers and sisters that aren't as fortunate.
Well, the rich have money to spend on cannabis, the poor don't. So
Well, that's what I
why,
mean. But
right?
they should care about their brothers and sisters. And maybe it's not their brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
and maybe it is. Who
Maybe
knows?
it's their family
And I
members.
don't mean actual brothers and sisters, because we are all brothers and sisters here. But the rich seem to have no conscience.
Yeah. Oh
They
no.
seem to have no conscience. I was thinking about Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some decent activists in Alberta.
Yep. Like Red Belt.
Fred Bell,
Gord
Hayes.
Yep.
you know, there was,
Jesus. I'm going to call it.
there was
yes.
Keith and Debbie Fagan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was the owner.
John from the Calgary Cannabis Club. John, I can't remember his last name, but the president.
Ferrier.
Yeah, Ferrier. Yeah.
There's some decent people there. But there's a lot of rich people there.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they?
They're buying at the stores.
Where are the rich people? They're buying their $125,000 pickup trucks to pull their $300,000 trailer, and they're just going on holidays when they have free time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care.
Oh my God. Somebody used the chat GPT and asked, why is cannabis illegal? You want to read it? You want to see what the chat said? All right. So thank you, Tony, for that. Let's see. It says, the legality of cannabis varies from country to country and it has a complex history. While I can provide a general overview, it's important to note that the reasons behind
It's illegality.
Yeah, and multifaceted have evolved over time. Here are some key factors. All right.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
In a historical context, cannabis prohibition can be traced back to the early 20th century when various countries, including the United States, began enacting laws restricting its use. In the U.S., the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 effectively criminalized cannabis at the federal level. Public perception and misinformation. Cannabis was associated... Oh, you went too far.
Sorry, I know.
Yeah. Associated with negative stereotypes and fear-mongering campaigns, fueled by racially biased narratives and the belief it led to immoral behavior or insanity. The reefer madness era in the 1930s further stigmatized cannabis through exaggerated claims about its dangers. Economic interests and lobbying industries such as timber, cotton, pharmaceuticals may have played a role in lobbying against cannabis due to perceived competition or economic threats. For instance, cannabis can be used as a substitute for timber in paper production or as a fiber source for textiles. And I would like to throw in there, it's a great fuel source, and that just might have been the main reason for its prohibition. Think Rockefellers. Public health concerns and perceived risks.
No, international
Oh, I'm
treaties.
way up there. Okay.
Yeah.
International treaties and pressure. The international community, led by the United States, played a significant role in spreading cannabis prohibition globally. The Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs in 1961, overseen by the United Nations, classified cannabis as a Schedule I drug subject to strict control measures. Public health concerns and perceived risks. Cannabis was associated with potential risks including addiction, mental health issues, impaired cognitive function, and the gateway theory, suggesting that it could lead to the use of more dangerous drugs. However, scientific understanding has evolved.
And many of these.
And many of these concerns have been debunked or nuanced over time. The screen moves on me for some reason
It's a long
because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
It's important to note that the perception of cannabis has shifted in recent years, with increasing recognition of its potential medical benefits, economic opportunities, and the failure of strict prohibition policies. As a result, several countries and jurisdictions have been revisiting their cannabis laws, decriminalizing or legalizing it for medical and or recreational use.
That's it.
And I want to throw in there that these moves to legalize are actually moves to control, keeping prices artificially high, continuing the mechanisms of prohibition at stamping out any of the competition that wouldn't be part of the fee-to-play schemes that they're putting into place. This is why governments are adopting cannabis legalization, so-called, around the world, because it suits them and their corrupt, corporate, greedy bastards. I could be more colorful. It's all about the rich preying on the poor, wreaking havoc and devastation, and laughing all the way to the bank without a concern. I think I like this Chat GPT.
You like it? It was kind of honest, wasn't it?
Well, these are the
It's like both
truths.
sides,
This
yeah.
is what the THC show is all about, is telling the truth. And these are the truths that we have been talking about for almost 200 episodes now on this show.
Yeah.
And for all of the episodes and all of the archives of cannabis culture forever, for longer than anybody else has been spouting on the internet about these things. Cannabis culture is the longest live stream and video or online video source that there is. And we've been telling these truths for a long time. This is the same thing we're saying,
Yep.
you know,
For
but it's
years
even
and
way worse
decades.
than that, you
Yeah.
know. We could go into it all about, and we do, about how bad it is. Or, you know, we scratch the surface every time.
Yeah. You actually
Because
got to be here to see how we make a difference. And
Well,
stuff
you
like
can't
that.
imagine
Yeah.
the horror in every one of those billions, probably, but maybe it's only tens of millions of police actions against on behalf of the government against the cannabis community globally.
Yeah.
Maybe it's billions. It probably
Might
is.
be, yeah.
And any one of those incidents is life altering and devastating.
I heard in one of those Oriental countries they just hung a guy for having half a pound of weed or something like that. Like, wow.
What does it do to his family?
Taiwan or something like that. Yeah. Like,
You know, how many people are hurt by that? I mean,
yeah.
who does that help except the rich?
Yeah. Like,
It's
great.
disgusting. It's horrible. It's the biggest issue going on. They will, hopefully, when sanity prevails on this planet, maybe in 40 years, who knows, quicker if we all work on it together. But at some point, they're going to look back on the Holocaust of cannabis consumers around the world. Absolutely the killings. Oh man, I don't want to. We've done it. You know, we've tried. It's just
It's-
immensely
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
And so
And we're not even sure if we had a new government if they would even go that way either, or you know, turn around and help you. They all promise stuff and
this is the
they
problem.
never pull through,
The
right?
problem is the governments aren't there to work for the people.
No,
They're there to appear to work for the people so that the people will vote for them.
Yeah.
They're really working for the people with all the money that help them get into those positions, who spend that money to help them get into those positions because they want those politicians to be able to work for them. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's at such a large scale, and now we all kind of get it, and yet it still seems like that ain't going to change nothing.
No.
It doesn't matter that we all know that the government is corrupt and working for the corporate elite. That doesn't stop them.
Because money controls stuff, right?
It doesn't matter that
Yeah.
they're taking that they formed a cartel to take over the cannabis industry. They set up a protection racket using taxpayer dollars, and they're still running around ruining people's lives to try to protect the corporate elite.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Or fining people $6.5 million.
As in the case of Ted Smith and the
Yeah.
Victoria Buyers Club,
Yeah.
who are facing a fine of $6.5 million, not to mention all the losses that they took because of all the product that was seized.
Yeah.
And they've never gotten rich off of that. Where are they going to get $6.5 million?
No. I'm so glad Doug and Michelle were able to beat them.
Me too.
That was really.
That's who I should have had on the show today. Actually, I should
Yeah.
have had Michelle and Doug come and talk about.
Yeah,
the
we
case.
could, if we don't use the Wi-Fi from next door and just use data, I can bring them in on the screen. Right? So
You do what you're
I
a producer,
can do,
dude.
I can do that. Yeah,
Because I don't know anything about this. That's
Yeah.
why I'm not the producer, dude.
yeah. So like because you can share.
But you know, if they're
share
watching
right?
or if they want to come on and talk about what happened there, I'd be happy to have that for sure. And,
Yeah.
and we'll try to get that
I'll
going
reach
on if
out
that
to them
doesn't
next
happen.
week, right?
Yeah, and I asked Doug if they were coming to Cannabis Day, and they weren't sure. They've got responsibilities at home there.
Yeah, and
they want to come.
He's got eye surgery coming up too.
Does he?
Yes, sir.
But I was hoping to have Michelle there because she's a powerful speaker, and I
She
thought
is.
that she should be able to explain what's happened about all this because it's so pertinent with what's going on here. Ruling after ruling after ruling is going against the government, and yet still here we are for some reason.
Yeah. So the government's just ripping up those rulings, but they're not making a law. It's only a ruling.
They're just policies apparently
Yeah.
or whatever, and they alter the policy. I don't know what we need. We certainly need to have the courts throw out the Cannabis Act. Like,
Yeah.
stop these
Start
stupid
again.
trying to amend the thing because it never is what it should be because there's still no reasonable low barrier access. So we're going to court in October.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for this. This is gonna. I mean, I hope we get there.
Pretty good.
I really do.
3 more months to go.
Well, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we will have the preliminary run through, If the judge decides it should actually go to a trial after that, then in November, in the middle of November, we'll be back for at least a 3-day trial.
Wow.
And we have lots of witnesses,
Yep.
we have lots of written submissions, lots of affidavits, lots of stuff on our side. What the government has on their side, and this is not the government, let me be clear about this. We're not up against the government in court. The government is who we are fighting in court, but their advocates are Crown.
Yes.
It is the Crown. It is that flippin' asshole of a king over there who should get the flip out of our business.
Yep.
That piece of crap has been maintaining this prohibition since the beginning. He's behind it. He keeps it going. And he could stop at any time, or she could have stopped at any time. The Crown could have stopped it any time, and they don't. And they haven't, and it's disgusting to me. It's disgusting to me to see when I'm watching videos about. And I have the YouTube feed. That's what I mostly do. I take what the YouTube feed feeds me. I tweak it by what I choose to watch, and it pretty much responds. I don't know why, but and maybe because I did click on one or two because I just wanted to see. But now I'm getting a whole bunch of these drone shots of these multi-millionaires' mansions. Drake lives in an amazing home. Joe Rogan's got himself a $25 million home he just purchased down in Texas. And I seen Miley Cyrus's place, millions of dollars. Oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe it. And these aren't even the billionaires, most of them. But wow. Wow.
I know, right?
And what is disgusting that I was noticing is that they'll say that, this home that's in this area of the world controlled by the British, and this place that's over here in the Caymans controlled by the British, and this place over here. The British think they own the bloody world, I'll tell you. And in those places where they own the world, man, oh man, it's quite the places. They got prohibition like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Crown is behind all of this. The Brits, and not the British people. I'm sure they're just ignorant like the rest of us poor souls that aren't in those positions of being the rulers. The rulers in Britain.
And it's not just here, it's all over the world.
It's all over the world.
In New Zealand, they're saying that Gazra and his wife are up for 23 years of prison. 8 years for supply of... We are up on possession of cannabis for supply, which is 8 years. Import cannabis seeds, another 8 years. And cultivating cannabis is another 7 years.
And not
Three
concurrent.
different charges.
And they're not going to run concurrent.
Yeah, they could. I guess
The penalties that the British are maintaining in many of their colonies is disgusting as hell.
Cannabis oil is only 3 months imprisonment.
And are you telling me that these people that live in these British colonies around the world where the penalties are so strict for marijuana that they don't have marijuana in those mansions?
He says.
You telling me that?
Pat Warnicky, Michelle Sikora, and Douglas are trying to help us from over here. That is great. So they're trying to help from Canada to New Zealand.
That's amazing.
That is
That's
amazing.
Great.
Yes, that is.
Yeah, I mean,
big sure. I can't do a heart with my fingers, but.
So when we go to court, the Crown, what they got on me is nothing. They got nothing. The charge is selling without a license. Part of my amazing defense, which is so multifaceted, is that we have been operating with a license pending since we were first told that we needed one. We applied right away. There was no legalization when we started the program. Once we finally got City Council on board, which we've been trying to do since we started the program, once we finally got them on board and they said, go ahead and rent a storefront and we'll support you with a license, oh, sorry, we can't do that because we need to have the federal government give you a license first, and there we are. Now we can't have a license. We can't operate out of a storefront like every other business would. I have an RV out front that we're operating illegally because that's the only way we could continue, or that was the best way to continue to provide the service that we'd been providing for 3.5 years by that time, and we just simply could not stop out of ethical and moral, fortitude.
We
can't stop helping people that rely on us at this point.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You get somebody to the point where they're doing good, and then you just turn your back and walk away on them, and they still need more that you have for them? No, we can't do that. So my defense is awesome, and there's basically, based on what they have in their big, thick batch of disclosure, which doesn't include any victims, nobody that's been harmed, no damage really attributed in any way in the disclosure, just that we're selling without a license, and they spent 6 months spying on us, spending a lot of tax dollars doing this investigation called Operation Blaze for some reason. We're all about edibles here. We do smoke the herb.
Yeah. We blaze.
But they spent all that time trying to prove that yes, I was selling and I hadn't got my license yet. They could have just come and asked me. It would have been a lot simpler. They never even interrogated me at all. Since when does that happen? I've watched TV shows all my life where the cops, there's a bad guy, there's a suspect, they bring him in, they put him under the bright lights, they ask him a bunch of questions. They never talked to me at all. They just arrested me one day with a couple of my staff members and charged us with selling without a license. Took my RV away, didn't give us any conditions, didn't tell us to stop, didn't put us in handcuffs or nothing. Right away, as soon as they were gone, we put up the tent and put out the tables, and we continued to help the people that had showed up. We did that every day for 5 weeks until they decided to give me back my RV, which I parked right where I had it before, and we've been doing that ever since, and that's well over a year ago now.
Yeah.
So what they got on me, this lousy Crown representative, what they got on me is two things. They say I'm a greedy opportunist.
Yeah.
I've been here. I've been living right in this dump right here, where I don't even have a kitchen. I just got some things set up. There's rats all around me, and I mean that human and animal. There's sirens all day long. I would love to live in a nice house. I have lived in a nice house. I used to have a really good job. I was a high-level carpenter, restoration person. I had my own business for a while. I had a nanny living in the suite downstairs. I've had nice houses. I've lived comfortably in my life. I've sacrificed all of that to come here because I'm a greedy opportunist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to damn well get what I want. No matter what it takes, unless they kill me or lock me in a cage and shut me out that way or something, I'm not sure. But I really want reasonable government to deal with in my life. I am appalled that the corporate influence on our public servants has brought our democracy to where it is. It bothers the heck out of me, and I'm going to do everything I can to get it solved. Every opportunity that comes along, I am going to try to seize it and get what I want. And that's what I want. I want my kids and my kids' kids not to have to deal with corrupt governments where we're paying money to people that are supposed to represent us and be our servants, and all they really are is just puppets for the very people that we least want to be in charge of us. The ones that have been in charge of people because they seized it a long time ago. They fight wars and using the very people that they've seized against some other group of people. They've captured and conquered and been the rulers for way too long for what should be reasonable. And I don't like things that are unreasonable, especially when they affect the future of my family and the people around me. So you're right, Crown. I'm pretty greedy. I want a lot. I want limited, accountable, transparent public servants. I want real freedom, where we have the right to do or not do whatever we want to do unless we're harming somebody else in some significant and demonstrable way. And should we interfere with somebody in some significant and demonstrable way, I want justice. Real, fair, love-based justice, with public servants doing what's right. Not doing with might what makes money for the rich. So yeah, I want a lot. I'm trying to get a whole hell of a lot. I'm up against pharmaceutical companies and oil companies and textile companies and other, you name it. There's a whole rift of huge, powerful groups that just want to keep it the way that it is. I'm up against them and I want it all. And I am greedy in that respect. I want way more than what most people tell me I have any shot at getting. But I am greedy. And as for being an opportunist, you're damn rights. I will take every opportunity to bash this prohibition of cannabis and other drugs and the lack of freedom that we're experiencing because the governments are kowtowing to the corporate elite who want us to be the things that they're able to prey upon. So I am a greedy opportunist. They got that one right. But it ain't for me personally as far as luxury goes. I've sacrificed luxury. I've sacrificed my health. I've sacrificed my time on this planet, where by now I should be out fishing on the side of a lake somewhere with my nice cabin that I earned by being a good person and working hard all my life. Instead, I've put it into this, which I'll probably lose if things don't go the way that it should. And I'm willing to risk all of that, and I'm willing to do all of this because I'm greedy about it, and I'm relentless in looking for the opportunities that are going to get us that, what we deserve as human beings. And really, you know, I should be probably dissuaded because we don't have all that many people helping us. The rich don't seem to help us. There's all these people in fancy homes and fancy cars, and they don't seem to help us. But I don't get disillusioned by that, because it's really not about us. It's about the future. It's about the children right now that are going to be adults in the future. Their futures are being compromised. And I'm going to try to do something about that. And I don't care if none of you help me and none of you want to join our little movement. I don't care. I'm going to still do this because I'm doing what I'm doing for me. I'm greedy and I want a good future for this planet. I can't stand the carnage. I can't stand the wars. I can't stand the deaths. I can't stand the lack of freedom. I can't stand that we've got governments, pretty boys that stand up there and move their lips and say that they're going to respect our independence and our individual rights as sovereign beings, and then do the exact opposite. I can't stand it, and I'm not going to rest until I put such a big dent in it that I can be satisfied that maybe the future of this planet can be all right. It's just my little contribution. I hope people join me, but if they don't, it doesn't matter. So that's what the Crown has against me. They have that and one other thing. I'm guilty of the first one. Hell yeah, I'm a greedy opportunist, and that's why I'm breaking the law all the time here. The other one is that they say I'm anti-police.
Yeah.
My dad wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
I grew up having this crazy illusion that police were good guys and just wanted to protect people from bullies, and that we could all trust them. Kids, right? I grew up to realize that the cops are just taking a paycheck. Yeah, most of them probably, not all of them, but most of them probably were people that wanted to protect the innocent from bullies.
Yeah.
But the job doesn't really allow for very much of that. Mostly it's about chasing down people that are in violation of these laws against the government drug policies, and all that is about is protecting the corporate rich. So, not happy with what the police are tasked with doing, and when they do those things, I lash out at them for that. But I'm not anti-police. What I am is anti-corruption in government. And that's what I'm upset about. I'm upset with where the police get their marching orders from. I'm upset with the people that give them those marching orders and who it is that's pulling the strings by paying the tab for them. The Crown's influence and the British elite's influence, the corporate elite's influence on our affairs here are causing us a lot of problems, costing us a lot of money, and there's a lot of human tragedy as a result. We need to be vigilant in how we allow ourselves to be governed. I can't tell you how to do it, other than I found my path. This is what I was born for, apparently, was to lead this mission of providing low barrier access. There's a lot of different ways that we can do this. You need to be part of the army of humans for humans against the snakes that are those financial elite people who simply use us humans as fodder.
Yeah, to make more money.
Make more money, exploit us. We produce and consume for them at their whim, and they incarcerate us or kill us at their whim.
The chat GBT said something, it expanded on the third topic that it had there.
Yeah?
It says, yeah. Can you
Shall
read
we
that?
do this?
Yeah.
Certainly, the role of economic interests and lobbying in the illegality of cannabis can be seen through various factors. Competition with industries. Cannabis has the potential to compete with several established industries. For example, the timber industry. Cannabis can be a substitute for timber and paper and pulp production. I'll let you go up.
Okay.
So I'll just read that again. Go back to the because I think that's worth repeating.
All right.
In the timber industry, this is where William Randolph Hearst, the media mogul who was most responsible for convincing the public of the evils of cannabis by subtly putting into his stories of death and mayhem that the perpetrators had been seen smoking a reefer or something like that. He was largely responsible for Emily Murphy's stance against cannabis and her book, and largely responsible for the general public's attitudes against cannabis. That's not ChatGPT, that's me.
No.
And actually ChatGPT, I think it's plagiarized me a little bit. I think it's probably
It's copying you.
getting its information from things that I've written in the past here.
AI, damn that AI.
I think it is, yeah. It knows me.
Yeah.
It does. My son asked it about me.
Yeah.
And my son asked it to write. It asked it about the CSP, and it knew about the CSP, and it did a really good job. It sounded like me.
Wow. Eh?
In talking about what
Wow,
the CSP
that's
was all
creepy.
about. And then he had it write a speech that I would give, and I can't deny that I probably would give a speech that
Just
would
like
say
that
those
when it
things.
did, eh?
But I think it stole all that stuff from me in the first place. So. Anyway, so far I love you, ChatGPT. I hope they're all right with that in a very platonic way.
Yeah.
I love this AI at this point, but in a very platonic way. We're not going out.
And we thank Tony for sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. The timber industry. Cannabis can be a substitute for timber in paper. Just think about how much paper is used around the world and how much money is made by those people that have control over the timber. That's me again. And pulp production. Hemp, a variety of cannabis, has strong fibers that can be used to make paper and other products. This could have been seen as a threat by the timber industry, leading to opposition and lobbying efforts against cannabis. William Randolph Hearst. The cotton industry. Think about how much textiles there are in the world. Cannabis fibers can also be used as an alternative to cotton in the textile industry. Hemp fibers are durable and require fewer pesticides compared to cotton and fresh water. That's me again.
Yeah.
The cotton industry might have perceived cannabis as a competitor and lobbied against its legalization. It might have. I don't think ChatGPT is doing its homework and really doing the research, because it definitely did.
There you go.
Pharmaceutical industry. Cannabis contains various compounds, including cannabinoids like THC and CBD, which have potential medical applications. The pharmaceutical industry, which produces synthetic drugs, may have been concerned about the competition cannabis posed in terms of pain management, epilepsy treatment, and other therapeutic areas. Their influence and lobbying efforts could have played a role in maintaining cannabis prohibition. I think ChatGPT is afraid. I think it is afraid to tell the real truth because of the possible consequences of it having its program.
The information's not correct.
Because I'll tell you, there's no question about any of this. You don't think the pharmaceutical company had an influence in lobbying against cannabis? You're not doing much research.
Yeah.
And
Economic.
And the last one, or maybe not the last one,
I don't
economic benefits of prohibition. Prohibition creates opportunity for law enforcement agencies. Read corruption. The legal system. Private companies involved in drug enforcement. The criminalization of cannabis results in arrests, prosecutions, and incarcerations, leading to a significant economic burden on taxpayers. These factors contribute to the preparation of prohibition, perpetuation. These factors contribute to the perpetuation.
Sorry.
No, down a little.
Yeah,
it's not quite there. No, the other way.
The other
Other way, yeah. There we are. And the vested interests of those who profit from it. Pharmaceutical patients. Cannabis, particularly its active compounds, has potential therapeutic applications. However, due to its legal status, pharmaceutical companies can develop synthetic versions of cannabinoids and patent them for medical use. This allows them to have exclusive rights to produce and sell cannabinoid-based medications, creating a lucrative lucrative market. The pharmaceutical industry's lobbying efforts to maintain the status quo could be influenced by this profit-driven motive. Maybe that's why they're doing it. Oh my God.
Sorry.
It's all right.
It is important to recognize.
Yes, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that these factors have been influential historically. However, as public opinion has shifted and scientific research has provided evidence of cannabis's potential benefits, the economic landscape and attitudes towards cannabis are evolving. Some industries are now exploring opportunities within the legal cannabis market, and there is a growing recognition of the economic benefits associated with its regulation and taxation. Of course, that's why they're attempting this hostile takeover of the whole cannabis industry globally. Aha, one of those, eh? Smells like George is in the building.
Get a joint side stage right.
We'll visit George in a little bit here, you know.
Diamonds and rosin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, I put it in the drawer, actually.
Yeah, bottom drawer there.
Bottom drawer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that leads me to another thing that you found for me that we were going to put on there. Are we able to do that?
Which one?
Debunking 10
debunking
myths
thing? I have
about
to get my
cannabis.
tablet out, yeah.
You go ahead right there.
Yeah, you can talk a little bit more about that, right?
So, you know, all of that speaks to, you know, basically putting a pretty good handle on what it is that's behind all of this. And anybody reading that, even though the computer algorithm doesn't like to say this has caused serious problems, you know, for the legalization movement, all of those things that it mentioned have caused great problems for those people that have been working so hard over the years to try to turn this around and get the truth told and allow for the best plant in nature to be available to people. You look at the amount of money that is being wasted on prohibition. It is absolutely incredible. As my friend the computer pointed out there's a lot of money to be made in arresting people, in prosecuting them, in jailing them, all funded by taxpayers, all money taken out of the tax bucket to pay for all of that. And it is absolutely ridiculous. Look at my case here. The government spent over 6 months on their Blaze undercover investigation of us in the RV with all the signs there and me standing there daily willing to and hoping to talk to anybody in authority. They thought they had to do it with long-range cameras and police undercover people pretending, you know, and lying and all the things that they do. And it all cost a lot of money. They hand all of their evidence into the prosecution, the Crown, and the Crown then synthesizes it all, extracts out all the information, puts it in a logical sequence. You know, they got all the numbered pages and all the pictures and the glossies and the names and the this and the that. I don't know how many victims in there of any sort I mentioned before, but it's a huge stack of very expensive documents at taxpayers' expenses. This has been going on with us for well over a year now.
Right.
For well over a year, your government has been spending your money on trying to make sure that they punish me for what it is that we're doing here. My two co-accused decided to plead guilty, and the benefit to taxpayers in all the effort put into having that happen is that George has now agreed to do 50 hours of volunteer community service at the community Aboriginal policing station, where they smoke a lot of weed, by the way. I'm gonna see if the chief at that department, my Aboriginal great friend, who's going to open Cannabis Day for us, by the way, and I won't even mention his name here because maybe he doesn't want me to tell you this, but I'm going to see if he will assign George to the CSPRV for his volunteer work, but not on the days that he's working.
Yeah.
In any case, that's what George agreed to. What George did not agree to, which led to the 50 hours of community service that is going to benefit taxpayers, no question about it. George on the scene will be a benefit to taxpayers. He's not going to get paid for it, although there might be some administration fees involved in the whole thing that taxpayers are paying for. But they're going to get 50 hours of George's time to offset the amount of money that the government and the police and the crown have all spent on trying to get something out of him for taxpayers. I don't think it's a good deal. Spend $300,000 to get 50 hours of George's time. He's a good guy and all, but that's a pretty high wage. I don't think us taxpayers really want to pay him that for that. With me, it's even worse, of course, because we're going into court come October. I've already had 16 court appearances. You can imagine what that all costs. That huge document they put together, super expensive. All the police time and everything else, super expensive. They're going to spend $1 million on me on behalf of taxpayers. Somewhere's around there, maybe more. $1 million. Because they're going to get it right. What are they getting for taxpayers out of their $1 million+ of expenditure? They're going to require me, if they win, to not go out at night for about 6 months. I would have 6 months of house arrest, where I would probably be able to leave during the day this establishment this luxury apartment that I live in here. I'd probably be able to do my job because, you've got to let a guy work. That's how it usually works when you're under house arrest. You can go to work and come back. So probably I'm going to be going to work outside in the RV, doing what it is that, we're being convicted of, and then come back and not be able to go out at night for about 6 months. I don't think there's much benefit to the taxpayers in that. When I go out at night, I am a citizen on patrol, and parole apparently.
Not yet.
I'm a citizen on patrol,
Yeah, you're not on parole
like
yet.
I am throughout my life.
Yeah.
Because that's what we all need to be, citizens on patrol. When there's an injustice going on out there, when I'm out there, I do my best to solve it. I've intervened in a lot of different things as we move along. Even when I'm just driving and there's cars out there that don't have their lights on, I'll find a way to pull up alongside and nicely smile and say, you should probably turn your lights on.
Yeah.
I'm just saving that guy a ticket. It's the city here. It's well lit. It's really like you're not driving down a dark country road. But I'm doing that person a favor, and I'm doing us all a favor every time I can because that makes me feel good. I'm a greedy person. I like feeling good. And I take great pride in who I am as a human being. And if I'm out there in the world and I see something going on that needs to be addressed, I'm not somebody that'll just idly stand by and let it happen. I'm going to speak up or do something because that's what we all should do. So having me not be able to go out after work, I don't think is going to benefit the public at all. So $1 million+ that they freely and actually eagerly spend. I'm sure that when those officers got that job of going undercover and coming in and purchasing cannabis off us at the Healing Wave and sitting up on buildings and maybe renting out apartments and setting up their cameras, and I bet you they all got excited about that. I bet you they were all pretty eager to take those tax dollars for that particular job, or maybe they weren't, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Crown's pretty happy about it. But I got to tell you this, the Crown was willing to settle with George for even less value to you taxpayers. You know what they wanted him to do?
What?
He was going to be allowed to be a free man with a complete discharge if he would agree to write a 2,000-word essay on why it's wrong to sell marijuana against the government cartel. And he refused. And he refused. And the Crown didn't like that very much at all.
No.
The Crown, I listened to a voice recording of the Crown leaving instructions for George. And she did not have a nice tone in her voice at all.
Wow.
They're not happy that George wouldn't write him an essay on why it's wrong to cut Trudeau's grass.
Oh, wow.
Wow, eh?
Wow.
I might have wrote that 2,000-word essay, but the reasons it's wrong would have not been what they would have liked very much.
I didn't read it here. This is what they wanted me to do.
Oh, man.
Do you want me to do this?
He refused. Did I finish covering that? I think so. Anyway, yeah, so George refused. So then the Crown gave him 3 days. They called him on Friday. That's the voice message that I heard. And told him that because he was refusing to do that, that he then needed to find a place where he could volunteer and commit to 50 hours of community service and he had 3 days to do it. If he hadn't done it by Tuesday, today,
Yeah.
then they were going to bring him back into court and be tougher on him.
Oh, be tough.
She was threatening in her voice, you know.
Oh, wow.
And George was like, "Oh my God, how am I going to? Who, where, what?"
Yeah.
Well, I contacted Jack and I told him, and he laughed. He's like, "LOL." He says, "You know, when I get back to the office, we'll pull the files on which organizations, you know,
Yeah.
are approved by the Crown.
Yeah.
Got to be approved by the Crown, right?
Yeah.
Of course it does. Why? You know, you can't just go volunteer for anybody."
So we got the.
So thankfully, a good friend of mine runs the community Aboriginal policing station here on the downtown east side, and was more than happy to accept George's volunteer hours.
Yes.
And assured me that they were definitely approved by the Crown, being they're a policing outfit. So, but yeah, this is disgusting. Let's have a look at you know,
all right.
some of the things that were spewed by William Randolph Hearst, and some of the lies that were told by government and the medical profession over the course of time, resulted in a bunch of ideas and beliefs about cannabis, and here they are being
This is 10
debunked.
worst weed myths debunked in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Recently accepted.
Well, so we can do this.
See if we can, there we go.
There,
So we show the camera, or is it
I
on?
just wanted to get it to play.
And as a result, there's just as much propaganda surrounding the plant as ever before. Some claim stone drivers will bring disastrous consequences.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
But a recent study from the same federal government that keeps weed illegal found stone drivers were no more likely to crash than sober drivers, and were far less dangerous than drunk drivers. Others, like Attorney General Jeff Sessions, claim violence goes up when cannabis is more available, but data shows there's no correlation between access to cannabis and rates of violence. A classic lie about weed that still persists today is that weed is a gateway drug.
You know, marijuana is a cure for opiate abuse. Give me a break.
Yet opiate overdose rates go down in states with medical marijuana, but it destroys your lungs.
We've actually measured lung function every year in our marijuana smokers up to 8 years. And we found that the slope of the decline in lung function was almost identical in the marijuana-only smokers compared to the non-smokers, where it was accelerated in the tobacco smokers.
But it makes you stupid. The study that implied that was widely criticized, and another study of twins found there was no difference in adolescent IQ between weed smokers and non-smokers. But surely, legalizing makes kids do it. Not according to data out of Colorado, which shows there was no uptick in marijuana use when it was legalized. In fact, the state had lower rates of teen use than other parts of the country. It can't treat cancer, that's a hoax. Even the government's own cancer website admits that in laboratory testing, cannabinoids have been shown to shrink tumors, kill cancer cells, and inhibit their growth. So to claim with certainty it doesn't or can't treat cancer is just ignorant and regressive at this point. On that note, government agents and agencies especially like to claim that cannabis hasn't been studied enough to be approved for use as medicine. Yet the FDA, which insists the plant must remain classified as a dangerous drug, is perfectly okay with short-term drug studies funded by major pharmaceutical companies and conducted by doctors on the payroll of pharma giants. But despite the thousands of articles on PubMed showing the great medical potential of cannabis, combined with endless anecdotal evidence, somehow weed just isn't okay. Except when it's synthesized by a major pharmaceutical company and approved by the FDA. It's for lazy, bad people.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
And dirty hippies. Okay, well, if that's true, this retired cop with Parkinson's disease, these children with epilepsy, these parents moving across the country to treat their children's persistent illnesses, and these war veterans are terrible humans with bad hygiene. So are the ancient Greeks, ancient Chinese, and other civilizations that long predated the DEA, FDA, and Jeff Sessions. One of the biggest myths of all is that the government keeps cannabis illegal to keep us safe. That's a flat-out lie. A former Nixon aide admitted in the 1990s that weed was particularly demonized to smear anti-war and black activists. Cannabis and hemp are also a threat to big pharmaceutical companies and the billions they generate, as well as big liquor and all the industries hemp could put out of business for its durability, efficiency, and sustainability. And finally, if you peacefully break the outdated law to use or sell cannabis without hurting anyone, you could end up the victim of brutal, violent assault and unjust incarceration. Oh, wait, that's not a myth. That's decades of reality. Cannabis may have some negative side effects that will continue to be discovered with further research, but not only are they nowhere near the severity of other state-sanctioned drugs, they also don't include death, nor are the side effects as bad as having your life ruined by the government because you use or sell a plant. Ultimately, you don't have the right to restrict my peaceful behavior because you think you know what's best for me, and neither does the government. It's about freedom, and we have no authority to tell others how to live and behave if they aren't hurting anyone. It's about being liberated in your mind and knowing you have the basic human right to experiment with your own consciousness or treat your own illnesses. So on that note and in that spirit, now I'm going to hit this non-psychoactive CBD joint that my government still swears to me isn't safe.
There you go.
So if you didn't know all of that, I hope you are really upset. And if you did know all of that and you're not upset, well, you're not very awake, and you might want to wake up before it's too late for your kids and their kids.
That's crazy what they do to us.
You know, we've done shows in the past where I've talked about, the 12 different, reasons why there shouldn't be prohibition. And there's more than that, but I think I picked 12 for that particular show. And any one of them is way more than enough to have the government stop what they're doing and completely reevaluate, and then come back with, reasonable low barrier access supplemented for those not taxed, because that would be what's reasonable.
Yeah.
Any one of a whole bunch of different, dozen or more different facets of this prohibition is way more than enough. And yet here we are. And if that doesn't demonstrate to you how much we have just been kidnapped by the financial elite, and that they are in control of our lives in these very major negative ways, then go ahead, have a good life. More power to you, I guess. I believe in having a good life and not spending your whole time being miserable about things. I don't. I've never woken up a day less angry than I was that day when it really got to me, where I saw a similar expose by Jack Herer in The Emperor Wears No Clothes is what did it for me.
Yeah.
Reading it chapter by chapter over the course of a long weekend, and coming to the realizations of, oh my God, I'm really, really upset about this. I've never woken up a day since then that I'm not at least as upset.
Yeah.
But you can't spend your whole life being angry. It's not good. It's unhealthy. Life is all about balance. This is a yin and yang universe, and you need the positive and you need the negative. It's all part of what drives and motivates people and what keeps them alive. And and if there wasn't problems to solve and life was all bliss, well, I think life would lose a lot of its energy for people, because we're problem-solving people and organisms. So there's problems to solve. But this one, and where we're at in our world, we need to figure out what to do here. We need to all figure out some way that we can contribute to the movement to get back our rights, and to have governments that are limited, accountable, transparent, and working for us. And that it's well recognized that the big influence on governments, if allowed, will be that financially elite group of people that have been, our rulers for all of this time. And that is the buffer that is supposed to be, is the public servants in between us and them. They're supposed to be protecting us from them. And it has evolved, this democracy, in a very bad way, driven by the profits and the luring of these financially elite people, and the usurping of our systems, and figuring out all the loopholes, and in the end, it probably originally was even just designed to satisfy a bunch of potential slaves that didn't want to be slaves.
Yeah.
So they were told that they could be free people and have a democracy, and that we could elect public servants, and that they'd be using the money that we gave them to help us and protect us from those people that would otherwise exploit us. Yeah, I don't even know if it was ever really what it was sold to us as. But I bought it as a young person growing up, and I thought that that's what we had here. I think a lot of people thought that it was better than what it is.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
And,
it's not.
When we're all struggling to make ends meet, and the economy is in the shitter, and they're still wasting $1 million+ to try to get 6 months of me not going out at night and 50 hours of George's time and probably Andrew's too. Mm-hmm. And really what it's all about is protecting a government monopoly that's there to benefit these financial elite. This is bad, people, maybe you don't feel it. Maybe that's why the rich don't do anything about it. And by rich, I mean just about anybody that's just, got a life where they got a car and they got a house and they go out for dinner twice a week and they can afford what they need when things come up and they don't need to worry. And I mean, maybe that's, the right thing to do for a person because this is too big a thing to tackle. But you can't look at it that way. There can't be proper satisfaction in that. And I really hope that, that we can get the rich on board,
Yeah, that's hard, unless they make more money.
When is enough enough? I mean, why does it have to be that, you got $100 million and you're going to spend that on a house and now you still need another $100 million to buy your cars and go on holidays with? When the difference between poverty and the rich is that, you could find somebody with $2 billion, $1 billion for what they're doing. And they are not hurt in the least.
Nope.
Not in the least. They still have $1 billion. It seems like an incredible fine to have to pay.
Yeah.
But when you're a poor person and you're being oppressed by a government who's trying to protect the interests of these rich assholes, I'm sorry, Annie Barbie, but it's that kind of a day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then when they fine you and it's like half of what you have and you didn't have enough to eat and pay your rent in the first place, it might only be $300. And $300 compared to $1 billion doesn't seem like much at all. It's no big deal, right? When you only have $600 and they're going to take half of it and you can't see your way to the next $600 you might get, then that is a huge amount of money. And for the governments to be preying on poor people and fining them and charging all of us these immense amounts of dollars to prosecute things. I remember when Don and Carol, we were at the weed store a couple episodes ago and seeing how they've evolved over the time and what they had going on. Well, they went through, hell and back as well and wouldn't stop. And their goal, Don and Carol are the most wonderful of people. Their goal was never get rich. It really never was. You get rich if you do what they did, and I'm sure they've benefited from doing that, but their goals were always about, legalization for the poor, for the sick, making sure that this legalization happens in a way that's for everybody.
They're about to get some more stress too, because they were talking about how they're going to be doing some growing, right?
Yeah.
So I found out through the Snacks of Life podcast, they had an LP grower or LP person on the show last week. And apparently in Ontario and British Columbia and one other province, they do a product call. Every 3 months they do this product call. And if there's already 5 Master Kushes on that list, your Master Kush don't get it in. You don't get to sell anything to the government for the next 3 months. So whatever you grew is
you have to destroy.
It's now not worth anything. So they're about to get into that kind of a business. And if they only grow, if the government says, yes, we need it, then they get to sell it. Maybe that's why it took Redbeard so long for his stuff to get into the market because of those product calls. So yeah, for 3 months you grow a product that you might not be able to sell.
So what do you do if you can't sell it?
I don't know. We hear about the back door. We heard about the back door,
but I mean legally, what they're supposed to be doing is destroying product.
Yeah, but you can't.
They're supposed to be destroying all of this great government safe marijuana that was produced there.
Yeah.
They have to destroy it. For 3.5 years, we've been asking that cannabis be diverted to programs like ours.
Yeah.
One of their big issues with us, they only have 2 issues with us. One is that all the weed we are involved with here doesn't come from them.
Yeah.
It isn't certified by them and they get their cut of it. The other is that doctors have to be on board and giving permission for these full-grown, supposedly free Canadian adults to be able to go and get some cannabis to offset the use of the illegal heroin and crack cocaine and crystal meth and fentanyl that they're able to purchase without a doctor on board at any of the number of tents and stations, all around this neighborhood. Not hard to find. Go for a walk. if you don't understand what you're looking at as you walk by, they'll offer it to you. You know, looking for any down, looking for any up, looking for any side, looking for anything. So, you know, their big deal is that cannabis we're using isn't coming from them. Well, I guess the only logical reason for that, if we were living in a world of logic, would be that their cannabis is safe and ours can't be trusted. And so to protect the people, can't be having us put out cannabis that they didn't supply. Even though we've explained that we don't put anything out without testing it ourselves first.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. And there's no such thing as dangerous cannabis out there in the world anyway. It was never a thing. The dangerous cannabis out there in the world is the stuff that has made people sick, like Organogram and their lawsuit and all the other nonsense that goes on with these LPs trying to get away with using pesticides and allowed to use pesticides and irradiation, and the government claiming, well, that doesn't do any harm to the plant. Well, I'm telling you, look under a microscope. I think it does some damage to the terpenes. It looks to me by just the eye through the telescope that there's some devastation going on in the beauty of the landscape of the cannabinoids that are on that particular bud that you're looking at. So, you know, there again, you know, trying to make sense out of something that's only deriving its logic through money. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not going to win.
You want to get more angry? So,
no.
Well, okay. So apparently, if I understand this right, the government gets 3 taxes on it. They tax the person who sold it. They didn't sell it to the boards, and they tax that, and then there's taxed on the customer.
Well,
so
three levels of government get taxes.
They get 3 taxes on the same product as it goes to 3 different sources.
Yeah. The federal government takes their 10% or what you know, $1 per gram. That's not 10%.
Yeah.
They take $1 per gram. Then there's the provincial government and whatever distribution body that they're using that purchases it, puts tax on it, sells it, and then again at the retail level, and that's probably there's some municipal taxes in that, or would those be federal and provincial taxes on that one? So maybe the feds are getting a double dip and the province too. Oh no, I mean. Glenn, I am not.
Hurt the government by just not buying their shit.
I don't buy their shit. I've never bought their shit. I haven't even smoked their shit. And I won't until they capitulate, throw out the Cannabis Act, and allow low barrier access. And that's not just low barrier access on the consumer side. That's low barrier access on the supplier side, so that it doesn't take much to grow some good, fine quality cannabis and bring it into the marketplace. It shouldn't take much to do that. If the government would make it easy, or allow for the marketplace to let it be easy for people to grow a few pounds of some good quality cannabis and allow it into the marketplace, maybe a way to test it, that's easy.
Yeah.
You know, they figured out how to test everybody for COVID pretty quick. I'm pretty sure they can figure out a way to test a pound of weed as it comes through the door pretty quick. You know, identify whatever concerns there might be. What are they worried about anyway? You know, what is it? What are the possibilities of this pound of weed that you know, we can't let it into the marketplace unless it's been tested? What are they testing it for? What is it that it's causing that is such an issue? Because I've never known cannabis to hurt anybody except those people with seriously compromised immune systems who report that they need to have clean organic cannabis, or they could be medically hurt by that.
Yeah.
So,
and we've been testing it for 100 years. We're still here. The people are still smoking cannabis. We're not hearing about any deaths or anything.
Nobody's going to want to bring a couple pounds of weed to the marketplace. It's going to be hurting people.
And if your weed's got fungus in it or anything, you're going to see it as soon as you cut it up, and you're going to know not to smoke that, right?
You know, Carol and Dory and those before them that really were serious about the medical cannabis dispensaries. They looked at everything that came through there. They tested everything. They scoped everything. They rejected a whole bunch. They only put out what was good. That's what a responsible business would do. And the government does not need to be much involved in that at all. Unless there turns out to be a problem somewhere. Like, it's not like this is a new product on the market. So really, there's probably not going to be much issue. We had illegal cannabis to the tune of billions of dollars of worth in the province for decades before they had the so-called legalization, and there was never identified any problems in there wasn't hospital wards full of people with brown lung. People weren't getting cancer. In fact, more and more it came out that cannabis is a supplement to your own endocannabinoid system. It can fight off cancers. It can do all kinds of things. There was that one that we didn't get to last week where it talks about how chronic cannabis users are more fit and in better proportions to their body weight and size.
I started taking oil, I lost 50 pounds. Right?
I've seen it myself numerous times.
Right?
You know, I mean, I've been using cannabis for 51 years now, chronically. I mean, I could stand up and take my shirt off if you want. No, nobody wants to see that, Neil. But I'm, you know, for a guy, you know, on the 70 side of 60, I'm pretty buff and proud of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the same level of energy that I had when I was younger. That's true, but that's age, you know. I think that's a lot to ask. I'm greedy, though, you know.
I know you are.
I'm on a really healthy diet. I gave up sugar. I gave up basically processed foods of any sort. I've been drinking really healthy smoothies for over a year now, and you know, I'm feeling good and what have you. But anyway, I'm not sure why we got talking about that. How did we end up there?
That's cannabis for you.
Yeah, well, I almost took my shirt off, and I don't even know why, you know. Why is because cannabis doesn't hurt a person. 51 years of chronic use, you think I would be totally out of shape. I'd be on a deathball, probably based on what they told me growing up.
You'd be really dirty, too.
Oh, yes, poor hygiene.
Yeah, poor hygiene, right? You'd be like, okay, Neil, you need to take a bath.
Well, you know, I did already once today. What do you mean?
I think be clean, you know.
I've been very fortunate in my life, unlike our ancestors for centuries and millennia before.
Yeah.
I've been able to have a hot bath or a hot shower since I was about 18.
Yeah, I always have a hot shower than do a dab.
It's a wonderful thing. Sometimes twice a day, you know. And it's not lost on me, you know, how privileged I am to be able to do that. You know, having hot baths and hot water for millennia was not a thing that people had. Most people, right?
Some lady named Alice Rosenthal says you're a sexy man, Neil.
I attribute it all to cannabis. What can I tell you?
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, it could
Elise. And maybe it's Elise.
Now I'm getting red in the face.
It almost matched your shirt.
On a mistake coming right up. No, and it's true. You know, I mean, all those horror stories that were told. You know, when I was, you know, my right-wing Protestant parents, you know, were so scared of their kid using marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, the stories that they had heard about it, you know. And they passed that all on to me as best they could. You know, the doctors, you know, growing up, the police, the government, the advertisements, they all were there to convince you that you start going down the path of using marijuana, and you're going to be a derelict, you know, die an early death, and
penitentiary,
and dirty, and you know, and not able to work, and not able to concentrate, and not able. Holy crap, were they ever wrong? You know, and so come on, government, the jig's up.
The gig's up.
You've been. Is it gig?
Yeah, the gig's up. Yeah.
The gig or jig?
I think it's the gig's up.
I think it's the jig.
Because a gig is where you play in music.
Well, what's that got to do with being
a jig
found
is
out?
a dance.
I mean, and what do
I don't know.
What do either of those have to do?
Well, the older person's probably right. I'm probably wrong.
You know,
we'll have to ask
my cousin Wayne Magnuson, brother of Keith Magnuson, the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
He was a school teacher. He wrote a book, Axioms and Idioms in Canadian English.
Yeah.
And for
gig and jig were in there.
I bet you if we ask the great goddess Google whether it's gig or jig, we should do that just so that we understand the truth. Because this is all about truth, this show, although we have a little bit in there about hope and trying to get some change happening. But it's a lot about truth. We really do try to tell the truth.
The gig's up. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Did you mean the jig's up? There you go. See?
Now, for the further education of our audience, you could find out why it was the jig that was up.
All right.
Like when somebody has been exposed for doing something and they're no longer going to be able to do it anymore, they've been found out, the jig is up. What is the jig?
It says the meaning of the jig's up is used to say that a dishonest plan of activity has been discovered and will not be allowed to continue.
But what's the origin of that? Why is it jig? You might need to dig a little deeper.
All right. Okay, how about this? The jig is up is simple past. The jig was up. Australia, New Zealand, U.S. Idiomatic, an expression used to mean we have been caught out and have no defense, or have spoken to a person that has been found out as the perpetrator of an offense.
Okay, well, so then just to ask the great goddess what a jig is.
Okay. Okay.
So we're going to get to the bottom
What
of
is
this,
a
folks.
jig?
So, a lively dance.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
saying.
back to that, eh?
That was right. Yeah,
that's what a jig is,
It's
not a
an
gig.
Irish dance, I do believe. The jig is an Irish dance.
With leaping movements, a
Yeah.
device that holds a piece of work and guides the tools operating on it. Those are two things that are jigs.
That are jig, yeah.
But none of that really explains why, if the jig is up, you've been caught. So,
Yeah, it doesn't really tell you.
for me to tell the government that the jig is up
Yeah.
and they've been caught and they need to step aside and reevaluate, they don't have that choice, right?
We had lots of
That
people
which
that tell
is
them that.
the government, which is not any individual. It's not Trudeau. He's the puppet face. He's
Yeah.
the pretty boy. It's sort of his office and the people that work in that office, but really it's the key influencers of the people in that office, their advisors, and all of those people, and follow those roots back, and you'll find that the financial elite of the world are the ones that are really pulling the strings
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
on what's going on here.
Oh, I
So
definitely agree with that.
Mr. Trudeau would probably be assassinated as quickly as Mr. Kennedy if he decided to do the right thing and give us the actual freedom and reasonable government that we deserve to have as human beings. He probably wouldn't last long if he tried to do that. The Justice Department is under the strict control of the Justice Minister, and they are, and have been for a while, under policy of not being able to debate these controversial issues of whether or not there's justice involved in punishing and penalizing a free human for having possession of a natural plant.
Yeah, something that's going to make that human.
That is
healthier.
not a debate that is allowed to be taking place within the Justice Ministry.
Yeah. Because they don't want to be proven wrong.
So, you know,
They
what-
think they're all almighty and they know it all. And
so what I'm asking is that people that are under the gun and under great threat,
yeah,
and at the present time benefiting greatly from their position, to change their position. Not an easy ask.
it's not an easy ask.
The only way that's going to happen, I don't know. The only way it has a possibility in my mind of happening is if enough people do their very best to take those opportunities that are there to try to influence those people in those positions and get them to do the right thing.
Yeah.
If
That's
enough
so
people
hard to do.
it's so hard to do.
It's so hard to do. The right thing is not profitable,
That's right.
right?
I mean, it is.
Well,
It is, and that's what we need to convince these people.
you think so?
Is that,
it could be?
well, it's not profitable in that it's not going to land them on a beach in
I
Jamaica
think if they just taxed
where they've
it
got their
once.
life paid for after that.
Yeah.
But what it is going to do for them is give them a life that means something. A life where they're not going to be seen as scumbags down the road. And I
Yeah.
think many of these people in politics are driven by their ego to some degree. I don't think that they want to be seen as having been pawns for an evil corporate elite that has been manipulating things. I don't think they like that image, but it is what seems to be going on. So if enough of us influence enough of them, then that can cascade into real reform
Yeah.
and a real evolution in the right direction for what it should mean to be governing free people.
Free people, yeah.
You know.
We're not free, we're slaves.
Yeah, well, but
That's what it feels like, kind of.
well,
right?
there is that aspect to it all over the place,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And you're free to obey,
Yeah.
and you don't get to make the rules or even approve of the rules. And if you don't think the rules should apply to you, but if the rules hurt you,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter.
No.
You know,
You go
there
to
seems
jail.
to be very little
Break the law.
recourse. It's by the book, and that's the way. And the courts are complicit. They have been.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe we can have some activist lawyers influence some activist judges
Like Jack.
like Jack and some of the other great lawyers that have
Yeah.
been working for us. haven't done the deed yet. I think they've left it up to Jack. I think Jack was born to lead this charge.
Yeah.
I think he's the right dude for it, and we'll just see. But if we can get enough Jacks or activist lawyers to actually push the right buttons and get some judges to become activist judges, then maybe we can get some other results. I don't know what it's going to take.
I just hope it doesn't take another 10 years or so, you know.
I'm not a genius. I don't have all the answers. I know what the top of the mountain is.
Mm-hmm.
I know where it is up there. I can see it. I know that there's several paths to get there.
Yeah.
And many of them are futile. I recognize that the snakes and the boulders and the branches and the pitfalls along the way are severe and many, and it isn't easy to get up there.
No.
But having a government of people, that it works for the people, that is limited in their powers, accountable if corruption were to seep in, transparent so that isn't likely to happen and easy to catch if it is happening, and that they understand that their job is to work for the people, and that their currency is the pride of knowing that they are doing good in the world, that they're trying to make the world a better place, not just for the people that they're serving at that time, but for the future generations that come, and that is their currency. If they would allow their ego to take control of their mind and do the right things so that they can walk down the street with their heads held high, and people would go, "Hey, Johnny,
Thank you.
there's Mr. So-and-so.
Yeah.
Wow, he's such a good man." We have had heroes in the past.
Yeah.
We have had great men rise to positions of power based on their motivation to be that which I'm describing. We need more of them. We need some of them. You look at the slate of people running for the U.S. leadership and you wonder what the hell happened to all the good people that, that were willing, because they've been scared into not doing it. They're smart enough to know that that's no place to be.
Well, they killed their last good one.
Yeah,
JFK,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Dare any of them really stand up to the financial elite? And maybe that's just it. Maybe the barricades to the top of the mountain are too great to achieve.
Yeah, you got yourself about halfway up that mountain when you got to talk to the health minister and ask him questions. That must have felt really good.
I got a little closer,
You did, yeah. I'd say about halfway.
I mean,
you'll never be at the top until you get this permission to do this. Then you would be really at the top, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not defeatist.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But I'm also realistic, I believe. I try to be. We try to be.
Yeah, we try to be, yeah.
Shaped by our own cognitive dissonance and our own biases and all the rest of it. I try to be. But, maybe it's too much. Maybe we can't get there. Maybe not enough people will help us. Maybe the courts will never go along, and the governments don't give a shit if they do, because the corporate elite who pulls the strings, they aren't going to give a shit what the courts say to the government. Maybe it's insurmountable, this mountaintop, but that's not going to stop me from trying. I'm not going to give up, give in, and say, "Oh, I guess that's just it." Protect myself, have as fun a life as I can have, and we'll just let the corporate elite run roughshod over all the poor and the sick, the needy, the ones that society should really be helping and protecting. We'll give up on them. We'll let them all die in the streets and die in their homes and be dying in prisons and all the rest of it. And we will accept Prison Planet at some point, because it's just impossible to get to the top, because the leverage and the power of the corporate elite is just too great. But I don't believe that to be true. I will not accept that as the case. Even as I extrapolate things out, I can see hope. I can see hope that because the masses of people are so huge, we had 100 and who knows how many thousand people in 2019 come out and support us at 420 here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
A sea of amazing people.
In the rain.
And that was just 1/10 of a million. And there's millions and millions of people around the world. We had close to 500 million people, or pardon me, close to half the population of the world tunes in to watch the World Cup soccer.
Yeah.
What if they all decided that a much better game to watch is the fight between us and the corporate elite in getting the rights that we deserve, in protecting our poor, in protecting our sick, and protecting ourselves and our families and our futures? What if that became the game of choice?
Yeah.
What if politicians ran on platforms of protecting people from exactly that which we all know is going on, and they meant it, and we elected them, and then they tried to do it?
Thought about this.
What if that happened? What if that became a thing?
What if? Yeah.
What if?
Yeah.
I have hope. I wouldn't continue on without some sliver of hope. But even without it, my point is, I would rather die trying than live just accepting.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
That's no
And
way.
that's what we're doing. We're here every week.
That's what
We're
doing every
trying,
week.
right?
I see what you're doing.
Yep. We're
It's
doing
just
it
about time.
Every week. Every week.
It is just about time, you know.
But every day we do the same thing. Here, you're down here every day.
Meanwhile, Canopy continues to report record losses in the so-called legal let's sell weed, take over the industry business. There was that. That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's about it. Except the thing is, it's Cannabis Day coming up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my producing stuff. We'll see
You
next
go
week.
that. You go
All
right ahead. I got mad today.
Yeah,
I was
good.
mad before I ran into the gentleman that lost his son to fentanyl and now has to deal with his affairs. I was mad before that. I was going to have a show like this at that point because of my thoughts about Cannabis Day and what it all means and what it is that we're there to say. And I want to make it clear, and I plan on making it clear on Saturday at Thornton Park, that we're not there to celebrate the Canadian government's achievements in human rights and looking after us. We're there to protest it. We'll be there to protest their handling of the Indigenous file since the very beginning. It is disgusting. Anybody who doesn't really have a look at some of the decisions made about the original people of this land that we're on and isn't disgusted by that, then I don't think you have much of a soul. Sure, it's not all, this and not that. Nothing's ever all this and none of that. There's different sides to some things, but there is no justification, there is no excuse for the Canadian corporation that is the Canadian government and their treatment of those human beings. And there is no excuse for the treatment of us in the cannabis community by Canadian governments successively for over 100 years. There is no excuse at all. Stop it yesterday. Apologize profusely. And let's do a proper examination of the benefits of this naturally occurring plant in God's garden that is, if not designed for our use, certainly should be available for our use as paper, as fuel, as textiles, as building materials, as a source of plastics, as nutrition, as a spiritual vehicle to better consciousness, and as a medicine. They need to structure a future where all of that is taken advantage of and made available in all of its forms for all of those people that need it. We human beings need to have some governance, for sure. In some way, shape, or form, it's just business. It's what you do when you have needs. You find a way to meet those needs. As society gets larger and larger, the needs grow. As a society, we pool our money together, find the right contractors for the job, and get the job done. First order of business, identify those people amongst us who are pretty good at not getting scammed and pretty good at finding the right contractors for the necessary needs that we have. And let's operate it like a business but it's for all of us. It's all our money pooled together to make things happen that we need. And the number one thing necessary for a system like that is that those people that are put into those positions of decisions and money spending and influence be good people. We need to have good people helping us with deciding what a good deal is, what it is that we need, how to go about getting it done properly, and doing it for the pride and a little bit of money, because of course it should be a paid job. Why not? People deserve money for what they do. You probably wouldn't get good people if you didn't pay them nothing, but hard to say. But anyway, sure, they're going to get paid some money, but they're there mostly because they can be trusted. And that's the number one requirement of the job. Yet we've evolved our system of governance to the point where we think the definition for a liar is a politician. And that's their number one basic skill. And if you pay attention, you watch over and over and over again as they promise you one thing out of one side of their mouth and deliver something else out the other side. And such a coincidence that it always seems to benefit the rich. No, it's not coincidence at all.
No.
So, Cannabis Day. This is a day that we've chosen that isn't 420. Decided upon by Buchan and CALM, the Canadian Association to Liberate Marijuana, back in 1977. If my math is correct, that's 46 years. Of course, you know there's only three types of people in the world: those people who are good at math and those people that aren't. In any case, it's been a long time. For almost half of this abysmal prohibition that's been going on for 100 years this year, for 46 of those years, there's been a Cannabis Day with the sole purpose of stopping the carnage and the prohibition, an attempted prohibition of cannabis. And here we are, we're still here, and I'm pretty damn mad about it. I'm pretty damn mad that Buck, actually it's a friend of mine's father, that his efforts have only led us to here. I mean, I thank those giants from the past that got us to where we are, and I recognize that I am standing on the shoulders of giants that got us here, and it's been a group effort amongst so many people. Not enough, of course, never enough. If there was enough, we would have gotten it by now. But I'm quite upset that I'm still here having to fight for what the CALM people knew 46 years ago and have been trying to achieve ever since. Let's make this the last Cannabis Day where we have to protest. Let's make this a global protest against these bad policies that are enriching the rich and devastating the rest of us. It's time. We shouldn't go much farther. Behind the scenes on their side, I'm pretty sure they're doing their best to figure out how to lock us all down. They know how to have distractions going on. They know how to divide people. They know how to scare people. It might be too late if we don't do something pretty quick. I still have hope. But for how much longer? We need to see the change that needs to happen, and we need to see it soon, and it needs to be genuine. None of this lip service, oh, you know, we're going to give you legalization and don't worry about the sick people. And then they bring in what they've brought in. And the sick people and the poor people, and those poor people addicted to the drugs they can't get off, are suffering and dying because of it. It's been time for a long time. I hope you're with us. Time means that I only have a certain amount of time typically, and I do like to be at least as brief as 2 hours can be. And I know it's a long time for people to hang in there and watch a show, and I hope we provide you with inspiration to keep watching and learning and getting inspired and helping us all out, because that's what's really important. In the name of brevity, the show typically for 195 episodes now, is primarily focused, although we did certainly interview many of the luminaries, the giants I talked about, and many other people in the industry. But we've been following the course of the CSP as it tries to become a legitimate service for people to use as harm reduction in a public health emergency of overdose deaths. We've been doing it for over 6.5 years. We started by handing out care packs, all by donation. For the first 3.5 years, we were in a collaboration with VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, and we handed out a bunch of care packs to people that would line up to get it. And within a short period of time, we had people reporting that they were ceasing their use from the other drugs, that it was getting them through those nights of withdrawal, and onwards we went. And along the way, we got the City Council to provide us with the unanimous decision to support what we were doing, but that didn't mean that they would do that without the federal government's support, so we've been trying to get that as well. It's been quite the 6.5 years, but we have not achieved our goals yet in any sense. We're still operating now for over 2.5 years just from an RV parked on the side of the road, illegally, but tolerated by the police 1 block up the street, who know very well who we are and what we're doing. And we will continue on and see where all this leads. But that's what we've been doing. And so we're going to just go have a brief visit with the CSP, do our annual or weekly web, and wrap up another show. So here we go. The weather in Vancouver is delightful. Warm, sunny, little bit of cloud overcast, little bit of breeze coming through. It's a very nice day here in Vancouver. It's always not such a nice day here on the downtown east side of Vancouver. There's a lot of human tragedy to be witnessed all over the place, and this is where we need to be to provide the right access to the people that need us the most, and so here's where we are. The last 1.5 years has not been without incident, that's for sure. We have seemed to be under attack here. We have had numerous break-ins to the RV. One of our RVs was torched along the way. We had the front window smashed recently. We have the person on video, very determined. You know, that was his plan, had the rock in his pocket and wanted to do damage to us. And again last night, the same thing. We don't understand why. There's no clear message of any sort that seems to be presenting to us, but certainly there are those that don't seem to like us being here. I don't think it's that they don't like the service that we're providing, because we've all worked very hard to try to make sure that everybody's satisfied as best we can, and there would be no logical reason for anybody to want to lash out at us because of a lack of service or problems with our supply.
We're not in
but
a
we're
very
not in a logical neighborhood.
Yes.
And so, you know, random things happen here. Anybody parking their vehicle here overnight or even during the day, if they do that repeatedly, probably has a pretty good chance of coming back to a broken window one day. And we certainly, although we were immune to it for the first 1.5 years in our RV, we didn't have any incidents except for a couple incidents of some nasty graffiti that you know, I think the source of that was, you know, understood and what have you. But other than that, we were left alone. The neighborhood appreciates us, and they still do. But we certainly had another incident last night, or sometime, during the night last night. They've flattened our front tire.
Right.
They've almost completely flattened the back tires. Come back here for a bit, Doug.
Sure. Okay.
This orange material is bear mace.
Oh wow!
It's all down the side of the RV.
Oh, you can see it there, yeah.
Orange stains, and we've tried to get them off there with soap and water, and have not had success on it.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to Google what gets rid of it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It might be bleach, although that's going to interfere with the paint lines.
Maybe a magic eraser.
Maybe a magic eraser.
But
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
We'll clean it up, and we'll continue on as we always do. But, you know, shame on the government of Canada for not having long ago recognized the value that we are to this neighborhood and to what's going on here in Canada here, and given us the protection of a storefront. All of these incidents that have happened, and they're too numerous to mention in the time that we have left, but all of them would not have happened had the government done its job and done its duty to protect the public and to allow the public to come up and demonstrate what is needed and be supported in that. And it's disgusting that the only reason that we're not supported by the government in what we have proven to be extremely effective in rescuing people from addiction and improving their lives, it is disgusting that their motive for not doing their duty is profit-based and possibly fear-based. It's disgusting that we have that sort of thing going on here. This side, of course, is stain-free so far. Hello.
Hello, Governor.
Hello. Walnut. Well, how's it going in here today?
Oh, just rough. Smoked too much weed.
Yeah, it's a tough job. We have our this is a work-free drug place, and we require that our employees test drugs all the time.
There they are testing.
It's a tough job, but
Somebody's gotta do
every
it.
single day we demonstrate the safety of what we've got going on here in testing these substances, the ability for people to function semi-properly for the most part, under the influence of these things. I still think we do a great job. I mean, there's the odd little slip, but there's the odd little slip everywhere. And yeah, no doubt about it, you can get intoxicated beyond your ability to function completely properly. And we find those limits because it's important to know that as well. But in any case, here we are, just another average day in the life of the CSP and the Healing Wave in fighting its fight to get legitimacy, to be able to provide our services, to be able to expand what we're doing into other communities and even in this community, so that people don't have to stand at a bank teller and listen to a father dealing with his son's estate because his son died of an overdose because he got hooked on drugs by a doctor. This situation is unacceptable. We cannot continue on without something big happening. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's our court case in October. I hope it happens long before that. I have serious hope that somehow, some way, we'll get the government to do the right thing. I'm probably living in dreamland, but I have to have some hope. But with your help, we can maybe make it happen. If enough people join us, if enough people write a letter, make a phone call, educate somebody else about things that they don't know to be the truth, and open their eyes as to what's going on here. Anybody who really gets how corrupt the government is and the implications of that, if you have a soul, you can't sleep well at night unless you're doing something about it. Myself and these people are lucky enough to have something to be able to do about it, so that at least we can feel that we're putting our best foot forward in trying to help things. If you're not doing that, I recommend you do. And we could really use you. If we get enough people joining in on influencing those people that are in positions of influence, as we talked about, things can really change. Your letter might be just one letter. You might think maybe if I don't send an email, it won't matter. But just maybe your letter, your email, your phone call is critical mass being achieved. Maybe without it, we don't achieve it. Look into critical mass and what that means. The straw that broke the camel's back. The 100th monkey. What happens when enough people do it? Don't let us be one short of enough. Add yours to the pile. Maybe be the one that tips the scales finally, where we get what we deserve as human beings. Limited, accountable, transparent public servants, protecting our right to do or not do whatever it is we want to do, as long as we're not hurting other people. And our right to access cannabis has got to be the first pin to go to get there, because that is just absolutely ludicrous. I hope we've explained that properly today on the show, just how ludicrous and abhorrent it is that we have governments involved in restricting access to this plant, and it's been going on for 100 years, and they're ruining lives in the process. I really hope that's been enough for some of you to finally decide that you're going to join the fight. And I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised if you do, if you haven't before, to find out what it feels like to actually be part of the fight. The value in that, the profit in that, the currency of how you feel, the only thing that really matters in life. I hope you're lucky enough to find that by joining the cause for freedom. In the meantime, whatever you do, be kind to everybody, especially those people that it's really hard to be kind to. They need it the most. And it's a good exercise to learn how to be kind to those people. And make sure you're kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive everybody. Everybody's just been doing the best they could with what they got for all the time they've been here. We can be better. At this point, do your best. Be your best. And the most important thing of all, as always, for anybody who knows me, make sure you have as much fun as you can, whatever it is you're doing. We'll see you next week.